So this is our basic site. This is WILPF, and this is where we get our food, and we've been allowed pages on it to work on projects ourselves, like prevention of an arms race in outer space. We've worked very closely with Reaching Critical Will on dismantling the war economy, on corporations. But we won't go through that now. We want to look at what's happening right now, and we expect it to go on into the rest of the century. So if you could go up to the top and hit resources, take it up to the top. Yeah, and hit resources. And then publication, there are publications. And we'll look quickly at some of these which Reaching Critical Will has done. You'll see the top one has nothing to do with nuclear weapons. And Reaching Critical Will has spread out. It's now doing arms trade, small arms, explosive weapons, drones, automated drones. It's a very wide, I don't know how they do it. There's, a couple of women and some interns, but the UN hasn't been able to do all this. We're coming back to banning nuclear weapons, but I want to say to you, there's not much hope in the nuclear powers. Their conference on disarmament has been stuck. It's almost 20 years, nothing's happened. And for many years, we were the bloc. Now it's more Pakistan. They don't know how to work together. They need more women to help them. But the assuring destruction forever shows that all 9 nuclear powers are rebuilding and modernizing and increasing their nuclear weapons stock. Not one of them is cutting back. They're all adding to. So that looks pretty hopeless. But we'll keep moving down. Is working. I just go down there. This one, we'll stop here. This one, unspeakable suffering, the humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons. The non-nuclear powers are sick of all this, and they've begun to take the initiative. And the NGO that's really shaken the world up, and remember this, because you should get in touch with them in your community. It's the Red Cross and Red Crescent Society. And they say there's no way we can respond even to one city being nuclear bombed. There's nothing we can do to help. The only answer is abolition of nuclear weapons. And right now they have a 4-year campaign on abolishing nuclear weapons. And they're very much into the hopeful movement that we're going to tell you about. It's all disappeared. But yeah,
maybe you wanted to go further here.
Go back.
I want to go back to that website because the ban treaty. First of all, this was a wonderful book. Ray Atchison edited it on the unspeakable suffering. And so this was used at a conference in February, March of 2013. Yep. Is that right? And then this year, there was a second conference in Mexico City. They're talking about the unspeakable suffering. And many of the younger delegates are like our own young people. They don't even realize nuclear weapons are still around. It's, but, so this has made it real to them. But at the same time, I can, which I think maybe next time. Yeah, I do want to to do the ban treaty, but,
Can I just make a comment here, Carol?
pardon?
Can I make a comment?
No,
Yeah, the significance of this humanitarian impact linkage is trying to stretch or borrow or connect the humanitarian impact being the motivation for the landmine ban treaty and the cluster munitions treaty. So it's trying to say the same kind of devastating consequences. You know, these nuclear weapons are symbolic, they're kind of geopolitical chess pieces, but they're actually real weapons that have real impact today, even when not used, the testing, the development, etc. But also, the spectre of the potential use is motivating people to think slightly differently about these weapons. And I think that's the power of this effort around the humanitarian linkage. At first it was very much shunned. Don't you try and do a landmines on us, said the nuclear weapon states. But that's eroded through this activity, and it's quite interesting.
and they're taking the same approach to go around, do an end run around the United Nations and negotiate a treaty outside of the United Nations. And I think if we go to the ICANN site next. So, WILPF's partner in all of this, the strongest one is the IPPNW, International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War. They are determined to get nuclear weapons abolished. They're the ones who first brought, and Costa Rica was involved in this. This is our president, Adelia Caravaca, is that right? Mm-hmm. Who is from Costa Rica. And Costa Rica introduced an NGO treaty, a model treaty, of which Felicity wrote a large part, and also the text. You were one of the major authors. She just went around from organization to organization and got them whipped into shape. And, okay, I guess you can see it well enough. So that they've been to Norway, and ICANN was there. Tim Wolf was the leader. Indefatigable, is that the way to say it? Yeah. Determined, talking with the delegates, talking with the Norwegian government for that first conference, and speaking for the NGOs, getting them involved, but urging a ban treaty. If you can't get a nuclear abolition treaty, they've tried everything, even given an auto treaty, then we'll go for a ban treaty. There's a ban on biological weapons. There's a ban on chemical weapons, which is a very good treaty, by the way. And so why not nuclear weapons? Make them illegal, outlaw them, and shame the nations that have them. So that's the drive now. And it's very hopeful. Adelia, you wanted to say something?
Not talking about hopeful. I think it's very hopeful news to the Latin American and Caribbean countries have been organizing and working for quite some time about declaring the whole region free of nuclear weapons. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is very good. I mean, and they are pushing for this to happen. You know,
and the second nation to hold a similar gathering where the NGOs and the delegates met together. The first one, 125 nations came. The second one, 145. The nuclear powers stayed away and disparaged it. Said, you know, they said very bad things about it. But
And the second one was in Mexico.
the second one was in Mexico. So just south of the border. And the foreign minister came out very strongly himself for the ban treaty.